My presentation today will be on the main features of Malaysia's Geographical Act 2022. As stated under our Section 2 of the GI Act 2022, the geographical indication means an indication which may contain one or more words which identifies any goods as originating in a country or territory, or a region or locality in that country or territory where a given quality, reputation, or other characteristic of the goods is essentially attributable to its geographical origin. So basing on the Article 22, this is in line with Article 22.1 of trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, which says that indications which identify a good as originating in the territory of a member or a region or locality in that territory where a given quality, reputation, or other characteristic of the good is essentially attributable to its geographical origin. So basically, from this definition, it can be said that geographical indication can be protected upon fulfilling the three components. Namely, there is an indication, as in the name of the GI to be registered. There must be a location of where the goods are being produced. And finally, there must be a product that has a certain quality, reputation, and certain character, which is due to the geographical origin or geographical area. So I will touch on the historical background of the GI law in Malaysia. Okay, the previous law on geographical indication in Malaysia was the Geographical Indication Act 2000. This act was passed by the Parliament in the year 2000, and it is also known as Act 602. The act was passed by this act contains 7 parts with 32 sections and 1 schedule. For this part, the authoritative text was in Bahasa Malaysia, and it came into force on the 15th August, year of 2000. Then now we have the current act, which is the GI Act 2022. This GI Act 2022 contains 15 parts, 101 sections, and 1 schedule. This act was tabled and passed by the Parliament in December 2022. It came into force on the 18th March 2022, which was quite recent. And the subsidiary legislation we have 2 subsidiary legislation, which is the GI Regulations 2022 and the Guidelines of GI 2022. And again, the authoritative text is in Bahasa Malaysia. Okay, what was the rationale and main objectives for us to repeal the GI Act 2000? Okay, the reason why we repealed the Act was to strengthen the geographical indications protection system according to the international and local development and needs. We also need to expand the scope of protection of GI in Malaysia. The third reason was to introduce new and comprehensive internal procedures in the Geographical Indications Office. Our fourth reason was to introduce provisions of offences and criminal jurisdiction to enforce the rights obtained under the Act and expand the scope of civil action. The next reason was to expand the level of protection given to a registered geographical indications in Malaysia. And our final reason was to refine the procedures of filing application for registration of geographical indications, including examinations, opposition proceeding, registration, and cancellation procedures. Okay, now let us look into the new features of the GI Act 2022. So the GI Act 2022 is a very new act actually, and this act is more comprehensive as compared to our previous act, and the relevant procedures are basically more simplified and easy. Okay, as mentioned just now, our act came into force on the 18th March 2022, and beside the GI Act, we have two related subsidiary legislation, the Geographical Indications Regulations 2022 and the Guidelines of Geographical Indications 2022. Okay, under the GI Act 2000, we only had 4 classes of goods. However, with the introduction of the GI Act 2020, we have an additional class of goods, making the list into 5 classes of goods. So the current list of goods are more specific. Okay, for class 1, as can be seen, the protection is for wine and spirit. For this, we still maintain as per the previous act, but for class 2, under the GI Act 2000, the listed goods were handicraft and food. However, the list under this class, under the current act, has been amended to prepared foodstuff and beverages, which consists of coffee, tea, cocoa, beer, rice, bread, pastries, confectionery, chocolate, salt, spices and condiments, preserved herbs, edible oils, sugar and sweetener. Okay, for class 3, the list of goods in class 3 is more broader because it covers agricultural products, aquaculture, and also horticultural products, which consists mainly of vegetables and vegetable products, fruits and the products, meat and meat product, horticultural comestible product, which is prepared for consumption, raw and processed grains and seeds, flowers and parts of flowers. As for class 4, we only have for handicraft, and class 5 protection is only on textiles that are other than handicrafts. So the application system, the current application system in Malaysia is more simplified, systematic, and easy. So basically, the person who can apply for geographical indication are producers in the geographical area of the produced goods, the competent authority, and an association of those producers. So as for application procedure, we have the applicant have to submit an application form, and that requires information among which are the GI that is being applied, the geographical area of which the goods are produced, and a location map to be submitted. So, and inside also the product specification has to be identified, namely the quality, reputation, and other characteristics of the goods. Okay, for foreign applicant applying the GI application in Malaysia, they will have to submit evidence that the applied GI has obtained protection in the country or territory of origin. So, and if the application is filed through an agent, through a GI agent, a form GI2 has to be submitted. And when the application has been accepted, we need the applicant to file another form GI A7 for the advertisement of the application. Okay, as for the duration of the protection, it is forever, but renewable every 10 years. And the application fee that Malaysia charges is very cheap. For the initial fee, when you submit the application, the fee is only ringgit Malaysia 250. As and when the application is accepted, we request the applicant to pay another ringgit Malaysia 450 for the advertisement. Okay, variant of GI. Under the GI Act 2022, Malaysia introduced registration for variant of GI, namely translation, transliteration, or other variant of the indication. So different application forms are required to be submitted for each variant. So the applicant have to submit the application form, and in the form, they have to indicate that there is an earlier registered or applied GI. Another new feature that we have in our Act is the homonymous GI. So under our previous Act of GI 2000, protection of homonymous GI was only limited to wine. However, under our current Act, application of homonymous GI has been extended to all goods as specified in the list of goods. Practical conditions to differentiate the homonymous GI from the earlier registered GI will be determined by the registrar to ensure equitable treatment of both parties and the public are not misled with the registration. Okay, under the GI Act 2022, Malaysia introduced grounds for refusal of registration of GI. So under the previous Act, the grounds of refusal was very limited. However, the current grounds of refusal are more comprehensive. So this is based on our Section 10 of the GI Act 2022. And as you can see, we have few grounds of refusal that can be imposed to the application. So these are our example, the example of our grounds of refusal. Again, this is another example, more examples. Okay, another new feature that Malaysia introduced under the GI Act 2022 is the revocation of acceptance by the registrar. So before an application is registered, the registrar may revoke the decision of accepting the geographical indication if the registrar is satisfied that the application has been accepted in error or because of special circumstances whereby the GI should not have been registered, or the GI should be registered with additional or different conditions or limitations. So when the acceptance of the application is revoked, the revocation will be published in the official journal, and provisional refusal will be issued to the applicant. Publication of geographical indication under the old Act, when we accept the application of GI, it will be published in the Government Gazette. So however, under the current GI Act, the accepted GIs are being published under an in-house publication system known as the Intellectual Property Official Journal. Another new features that we also introduced is the opposition to application, whereby we have additional grounds of oppositions introduced. So basically the grounds, more grounds were introduced, as in having it based on Section 10, as the slides that I showed you earlier. Okay, the next one is the cancellation of GI by court. Under the new Act, there is a provision of cancellation of geographical indication by court, whereby any person may cancel the registration of a registered GI on the grounds that the GI was registered in breach of the grounds of refusal of registration of GI as listed under Section 10 of the GI Act 2022. The second reason is by way of the registration was obtained by way of fraud or by misrepresentation, or the GI has fallen into disuse or is no longer protected in the country or territory of origin, and the registered proprietor failed to maintain any commercial activity or interest, including to commercialize, promoting or market monitoring of the GI in Malaysia. And because of this failure, the GI has become a common name of the goods. Also in our current act, we also allows a proprietor of the geographical indication to voluntarily cancel his registration upon submission of the relevant form together with the payment of the prescribed fee. The other new feature that we have is the transfer of registration of GI. A registered proprietor can transfer the right that he has obtained through registration to another person, and the transfer is possible if the person to receive the GI is a producer of the GI in the registered area, or a relevant association or a competent authority. And the person to receive the registered GI consent of the transfer to him. And this consent has to be submitted by writing to the registrar. The next feature that we have in our GI Act 2022 is whereby any interested person may institute proceedings against any person based on the grounds specified under our Section 77 of the GI Act 2022, which among others are the reasons by using the GI that may mislead the public. Okay, and then the provision. Under the GI Act 2022, we also introduced the provision on offences. This provision were not available under the GI Act 2000, but with this introduction of provisions on offences, it will empower the assistant controller to enforce the rights of our registered proprietor of the geographical indication. For the renewal procedure under our GI Act 2022, the procedure are more structured because application for renewal can be filed 6 months prior to the expiry date. If the renewal is filed 6 months after the expiry date, the proprietor will have to pay a renewal fee plus the surcharge fee. And however, if the application will be removed if the proprietor did not pay the renewal fee after the 6 months is over. And the removal of the registered GI will be published in the official journal. The proprietor are still able to restore the application within 6 months from the removal date if the registered proprietor filed an application for restoration of the registered GI together with the prescribed fee and submit copy of certificate of any acceptable document by the registrar to prove that the protection still exists in the country or territory of origin. Okay, the next new feature that we introduced is the registration system for GI agent. And this was introduced to ensure the high level of quality service rendered to the clients. Okay, and my final slide, is regarding the fees that we have. Under the new GI Act 2022, the existing fees we are maintained because we do not increase most of the fees, except for the renewal fee of the registered GI agent. And as for the new features that were introduced, we have new fees for those. Okay, that is the end of my slide and presentation. Thank you so much.